From invading the pitch during the FIFA World Cup, stealing tips off his own employees, to setting customers on fire in one of his own restaurants, it's easy to understand why Salt Bae might be one of the most hated meme celebs ever. What's the internet's golden boy of meat sprinkling, he's now the culinary world's biggest eye roll. Nursek Gochi went from being viral sensation to villainous restaurateur quicker than you could spell overpriced steak, and not without good reason. His restaurants might rake in cash, but Salt Bae is nothing more than a narcissist who's been facing disappointment, lawsuits, and dishing out some of the most absurd receipts known to mankind. Although at one time, Nursek Gochi was the internet's favorite steak-slinging showman. That's certainly not the case anymore. His flair for theatrics and his signature salt sprinkle have just become so cringe, it would make a Wagyu cow cry. I mean, who wouldn't want some guy's forearms sweat all over their steak? Can you say gourmet? But these tricks are not just disgusting, but really dangerous too. Let's not forget less than a year after Salt Bae's initial rise when his Istanbul steakhouse decided to spice things up with a tableside fire show. Except instead of impressing guests, they ended up actually setting customers on fire. One of the victims, Czech influencer Tynas Tresnikova, actually suffered third-degree burns over 35% of her body. Others in the restaurant were also injured in what should have been a luxurious meal, not a trip to the ER. Imagine paying hundreds of dollars for a steak only to leave the restaurant feeling like a charred ribeye yourself. But here's the question: why does this make people hate Salt Bae? For one, Salt Bae never cared. Shocker. A high-end restaurant should prioritize customer safety over gimmicks. But Salt Bae's obsession with theatrics over practicality turned the steakhouse into a fire hazard. Moreover, did Salt Bae step up, take responsibility, and make things right? Of course he didn't. The man who loves showing off on Instagram went suspiciously silent when people started questioning his restaurant's negligence. While Tresnikova spent months recovering from painful burns, Salt Bae kept doing his signature salt sprinkle as if nothing had happened. The lack of remorse made it clear. As long as the steaks kept selling, he didn't care. People were furious. It just gave them another reason to despise Salt Bae, the man who seemingly values gold leaf and Instagram clout more than human lives. If this incident proved anything, it's that his restaurants are as reckless as his social media presence. As if this wasn't bad enough, another lawsuit was filed in 2021 against Salt Bae. The $5 million copyright lawsuit was because he got sued by artist Logan Hicks for plastering his artwork all over his restaurants without permission. The lawsuit claimed that Gochi used Hicks' murals across multiple locations without paying a dime. Considering Salt Bae charges nearly $700 for a steak, you'd think he could afford to compensate an artist properly. But nope, in typical Salt Bae fashion, he didn't give a crap. But let's jump to the time when Salt Bae's Boston steakhouse was supposed to be a glittering jewel in his empire, but it barely lasted days before being shut down for violating COVID-19 safety protocols. Yeah, real genius there. The grand opening in September 2020 was a chaotic mess, featuring packed crowds, maskless selfies with the man himself, and complete disregard for pandemic rules. Authorities didn't find his antics quite as amusing as the internet once did, and the restaurant was forced to close before it even had a chance to fail properly. Or how about the time when Salt Bae's flair for bad PR peaked when he personally served Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro at his Istanbul restaurant, while the people of Venezuela faced food shortages, inflation, and economic collapse. Maduro was feasting on gold-plated steak, hand-fed by Salt Bae himself. Naturally, the internet was furious. Outside his Miami restaurant, protests erupted, and Salt Bae got the hate he probably rightfully deserved. However, Salt Bae, the master of damage control, deleted the video and pretended it never happened. Nice try, Salt Bae, but the internet never forgets. Or how about the time one of Salt Bae's restaurants called the cops on a customer for refusing to pay the bill? Imagine sitting down for a fancy steak dinner, expecting a slightly overpriced but Instagram-worthy meal, only to end the night with the police showing up over your bill. That's exactly what happened in December 2019 at Nusret Steakhouse in Miami, where a group of unsuspecting diners got hit with a check so outrageous they probably considered selling a kidney on the spot. When the check arrived, totaling a jaw-dropping $5,000, Miranda and his crew were less than thrilled. They claimed no one had warned them that their steaks were more than their monthly rent. Now, it's impossible for me to sympathize here. You go to one of Salt Salt Bae's restaurant, so you know you're getting ripped off and doing it for clout. If you don't, then you're just a complete idiot. So what happened? You guessed it. Instead of an apology, they got a manager who insisted on full payment or else. The night went from fine dining to cops arriving at the table, making this situation even more ridiculous. With no other option, Miranda and his party paid the bill but left the restaurant fuming, later taking to social media to warn the world about Salt Bae's golden scam. I mean, dude, you literally brought this on yourself, so go cry into a bucket. The restaurant, on the other hand, insisted that the prices were clearly stated on the menu. Sure, they were, probably in the tiniest font known to mankind. And while a steak wrapped in gold might make for a flashy Instagram post, it's safe to say that no one wants to add police intervention to their fine dining experience. But it gets worse. Salt Bae, the man who charges over $700 for a steak, somehow thinks 12 pounds an hour is a fair wage for the people making it. Yeah, you read that right. In 2021, Salt Bae's London restaurant posted a job listing for a chef position. Not a server, a chef. And it was paying just $12 per hour, at the same place where a single tomahawk steak could send your bank account into cardiac arrest. Let's be like Big Shaq and do some quick maths. One of his gold-wrapped steaks costing 850 pounds. So, a chef working at this rate would need to work over 70 hours to afford one of the meals they're cooking. Add in rent, bills, and food, cost of living, normal human expenses. And you'd need a second job just to eat at the place you work. Customers were already questioning astronomical prices, and this job posting just confirmed what everyone suspected. Salt Bae was nothing more than a greedy narcissist trying to milk his 15 minutes of fame. His delusional pricing strategy and stingy wages made him the poster boy for a rich guy out of touch with reality. Instead of raising wages, though, Salt Bae just kept flexing his wealth online. Because of course he did. So next time you think, oh, but he worked so hard, maybe think again. Back in 2018, Salt Bae decided to open a shiny new restaurant in New York City. Great, right? Nope. Instead of hiring union labor, workers who actually get fair wages and benefits, he went for the cheaper non-union route. Because why pay people properly when you could pocket the savings and roll around in piles of cash instead? This didn't go unnoticed. Protesters and labor unions took to the streets, calling him out for undercutting fair labor practices. The irony was that this is the same guy who charges a kidney and a half for your soul for your meal. But suddenly, he's frugal when it comes to paying his workers. At this point, Salt Bae's villain arc was writing itself. Not only was he gouging customers, but he was also cutting corners on the very people making his empire possible. The man's out here rubbing salt in the wounds, literally and figuratively. He was even stealing tips from his own employees. Like, you literally can't make this stuff up. The final verdict was that the only thing more excessive than his steak prices was his ability to make people hate him. Not that it was undeserved anyways. With all these controversies against Salt Bae for so long, it's a mystery to say what took so long for people to hate him. What do you say? The internet might love a good meme, but it hates a cash grab even more. Salt Bae tried to ride his viral fame to an empire of gold-plated steaks and absurd bills, but he's now facing the consequences of his own ridiculousness. His once iconic salt sprinkle is now more of a desperate grab for relevance, and if things keep going south, his next big move might be flipping burgers instead of overpriced tomahawk. What do you think about that? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this interesting, then don't forget to watch the Sophie Rain video on our channel. Plus, like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content. Thanks for watching.